Students, today we will study transportation in plants. So here transportation, as we have discussed in human being, which require blood vessels and heart. Similarly here also there are certain tissue systems which are required for transportation in plants. So this transportation is based on normally the principle is diffusion process, but before that we will discuss what are the tissues that actually required for transportation in plants. So that is xylem and phloem. Now xylem is what? Xylem, if a plant is having more xylem, then it forms the wood of the plant, okay? And whereas phloem is not for wood. So xylem is for water transport, but the phloem is for food transport, that is made by the photosynthesis process. Now the xylem is a very complex tissue. It is made up of xylem, parenchyma, then tracheids, then vessels. So these are and then fibers, xylem fibers. So these are the components of xylem tissue, as it is a complex permanent tissue. So it transports water, and it transports water, that particularly tracheids and vessels. These are the major components through which this angiosperms normally the water transport is seen. And this xylem, here out of these four components, only one is living, that is xylem parenchyma is a living cell, but rest all are dead cells. So they have the conducting elements. These are the conducting elements, major tracheids and vessels. And next one is phloem, and that's a food conducting tissue. Okay, so this is a food conducting tissue. And this food conducting tissue has also, like phloem parenchyma, along with that seed tubes, then companion cells, and phloem fibers are there. Phloem fibers are there. So these are the four components that makes the phloem as food conducting tissue, and it is also a complex permanent tissue. So here seed tubes and companion cells are major conducting elements, and along with that these all three are living cells, but fibers are your dead cells. And this the process that occurs to phloem is called translocation. So process of food transport is called translocation, whereas this is called ascent of sap. Now sap is what? The water that is present inside the plant cells, that is called sap, and this is called ascent of sap, or upward flow of water. Next we will come to how this water transport happens through phloem. So mechanism of water transport through phloem, through xylem. So first, the xylem is water transport mechanism. Now here certain water transport mechanism involves certain theories, and in that theories the most applicable theory is this is root pressure, and then your transpiration pulley. So these theories are important, which normally describes the water transport. Now this transpiration pulley again involves cohesion, adhesion, and surface tension. So these three things are involved. Now what is root pressure? First you have to understand. So that is the root pressure is created in the cells, and that is when there is absorption of mineral ions. So if it is the soil, and then there is the root, okay, this is the roots, this is the root hairs, okay, and these root hairs, first there is absorption of ions, and this absorption of ions occur active transport. So actively this get inside the root cells, so that a hypertonic medium is created here, and osmotic gradient is created. So this osmotic gradient helps, you know that you have read in class 9, when the solute or ion portion is inside the cell is more and outside it is less, then water will passively absorbed by this root hairs. So there is passive water absorption, because of this active transport of ions. And this inside, the water is flowing inside the cells, that creates a pressure against the boundary of the cell, and that is the root pressure. And this root pressure is actually helping the water to get inside the root cells. So this is quite good for the plants where it is a few centimeter in height, very small height plants. For them the root pressure is good to send the water. But if it is now a very multi-storied height plant is there, tree is there, and the tree don't follow the root pressure normally, they go for another mechanism, that is transpiration pulley. Now what is this transpiration pulley? Now if you see, this is the root, okay, and the root hairs are there. So this root hairs, as usual, there is the passive transport of water because of active transport of ions, okay. So this osmotic gradient is created. Next, this is the stem, okay. So somehow because of this root pressure theory, the water is get into the xylem, tracheids and vessels, and then from this xylem, which is there in the root, through which the water will go up and then it will reach to the leaves. So this is the, xylem is present all over the midrib and stem. So root xylem to stem xylem, then to leaf xylem, the water reach. And how this water reach? Why this water will go up against the gravity? So that is described by this theory. Here continuously water is lost by the process of transpiration. Okay, continuously water is lost by the process of transpiration. So there is always a demand created here, and that demand produce this suction pressure, and this suction pressure is created, and that pulls the water up through this xylem, and to the leaf xylem it reaches. So in this way transpiration is helping. What is transpiration? That is removal of extra water in form of water vapor. So this transpiration is helping to pull the water up, and that is the upward flow, that is called as ascent of sap. And this upward flow is maintained by cohesion, adhesion and surface tension. These three mechanisms. So cohesion is the water molecule attracts each other, that is cohesion. Adhesion is the water molecule has a attraction to the wall of the vessel also. So and surface tension, along with these three, that helps in transpiration pulley. So cohesion force, adhesion and surface tension, this all three will help in the flow of water through this xylem. Now the next one is phloem. How this phloem helps in this transport? So what happens in the phloem? Here leaf is the major food production center. So when the food is produced in this leaf cells, okay, entire leaf cells are producing what? Food. And this food is so in this midrib also there is phloem, Here also in the stem also there is phloem, and even under the soil also the roots, that is also having phloem. Okay. Now this food is first actively transported into this phloem, and then from here this is the bidirectional movement is followed, because bidirectional movement means that is source to sink, and a sink means where this food is stored, and source means where the food is formed. And this bidirectional movement is actually following, it is pressure flow hypothesis. Because of high pressure to low pressure, it is called pressure flow hypothesis. That is, high pressure to low pressure the food moves, because once the food is, and along with the phloem there is xylem also. So when xylem contains more water and the phloem contains food, then the water from xylem will get into the phloem. Okay, so there is osmotic gradient happens, and the water from xylem is getting into the phloem and makes the food soluble, and then food normally flows in form of sucrose. Food normally flow through the phloem in form of sucrose, but food produced here by in form of glucose. Okay, so food is produced and food is stored in form of starch. So there are three kinds of carbohydrate seen in plants. Once the food is produced in form of glucose, when it is flowing through the phloem, it is in terms of sucrose, and then sucrose again joined to form the starch molecules. So starch is not soluble in water. Once the starch is formed in the cells, then the water again come back to the xylem. So this is called bidirectional movement. That means here is the food form, but the food can go to the apical part, food can go to the downward. So all the direction this food can travel along with water. And once the starch is formed, then this water is coming back to xylem once again. So this is called translocation. So region of supply of food is called source, and the area of utilization is called sink. So direction of translocation can be downward, upward, or both. So that's why it is called bidirectional movement. And for this, in the phloem, who are the major cells who help in this translocation? That is seed tubes and companion cells. These two are major transport medium, conducting elements. And what kind of things along with this food flows? The translocation nutrients are sucrose, as already told, amino acid, organic acid, hormones, and other organic solutes. So this completes the transportation in plants, and mass flow hypothesis you have understood. That is the major responsible theory for describing this food flow through phloem. Thank you. Ask your doubts in the online class.